Steve Irwin. That's my goal.
Yeah, he was killed by a stingray. I don't think that's the best goal to have.
Is that how he
Yeah,
died?
that may not
Yeah. He did,
Okay,
yeah.
we're live now, guys.
Oh, nice.
All right. We're still waiting. Robert Johnson, he'll join us momentarily, I'm guessing.
He's trying to get
Roger
in,
Kelly
actually.
for AFI Live for a special edition from Japan. Thanks for everyone for watching. It's myself and Caleb Leach from AFI on the panel here. John McKean is handling in the background and won't be able to be on the call today. So we thank anyone who's watching for being here. Thanks, guys. I'm going to go from left to right on my screen, at least. John Gunny from Inside Sport Japan. Pierre Ingram. Pierre, you're the OC for Jiu-Jitsu?
Correct. The offensive coordinator over Jiu-Jitsu Frontiers now.
All right. And we'll go into some detail in a couple minutes, guys. I just wanted to go across the top here. Gino, your former running back for Jiu-Jitsu Frontiers, and if I mispronounce anything, don't hesitate to correct me. But where are you now?
I'm actually still in Japan, so I'm very much in the sports industry. I work for a firm called Red Phoenix Entertainment. That's a sports marketing company that bridges American companies or American sports athletes and properties to Japan and China. So I have my hand in the sports world still.
Okay, good for you, and thanks. So it's late for you too. Thank you, and then Adi, I'm not going to even try because I'll screw up your name completely. You're the veteran here, actually, of the group with the Frontiers. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Real One. It's pronounced Real One. Real One. Adeyemi. Everyone calls me Adi because it's just much easier. And I've been in Japan it'll be 7 years on July 23rd. Gino and I actually arrived on the same day into the airport in Japan, July 23rd,
really?
2013. Yep.
Teammate. So I didn't realize that you had been there that long. Okay.
Yeah, I was actually born. Go ahead.
Go ahead. So,
I was actually born in Japan, but that's a long story that we'll get into a little bit later.
no, I thought. Forget. And then we got Robert Johnson just joining us. Just disappeared from the screen there momentarily. We'll get back to him. There we go. Robert, there you go. Make a quick intro. You're the only one who's a non-Fujitsu guy here today, other than John Gunning and of course myself and Caleb. So thank you for joining us at short notice too.
No problem.
You're with the I always is it how do you pronounce the name Challengers? Have I got that right, Robert?
You talking about the team?
Yeah.
Asahi Challengers. I think last year they was trying to take soft drinks off the name, so I think they want to pronounce it more just Asahi Challengers. So I just go with Challengers.
All right. We'll go Asahi Challengers. All right, and you're playing both ways. You're wide receiver and defensive back.
Actually, right now it's just receiver. I've been trying to persuade the coaching staff to try to use me both ways. So I would like to play defensive back again, but we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Now, Pierre, off camera before we went live, you were telling us a little bit. So, and I'm going to ask you to repeat it if you don't mind. I appreciate it if you. So
on what subject matter? I'm just going to make sure I'm talking about the right thing before I get in trouble.
We won't talk about Australia. No, we're talking about your football in Japan.
Oh yeah. So I mean, just me personally, I've coached in the U.S. for a while, and had the opportunity to come to Japan. I had a former player, Kobe Cameron, that played for Fujitsu as well, that came over. Played in Japan, and had the opportunity to get a call from him, and he was really the stewardess that brought me over to Japan. Met with the team at Fujitsu. At that time, Adi and Gino were actually on the team as well. Didn't know much about the league and what, Japanese football was. I just understood that, they bring over 4 Americans typically for each team. They wanted to get in the process of bringing over American coaches. So for me personally, it was an opportunity. I jumped on it and never looked back. But I will say as a start to just spark the conversation, and then these players can talk more into it. But just the league as a whole will, if you have the opportunity to watch it, which they're broadcasting games now on Facebook Live and doing more to try to get international fan base, but it will truly blow your mind when you see the level of football that's played out there, and the type of players that we have with Robert. These guys, Gino, now being a vet. I guess Gino is retired. He's a Hall of Famer now. I guess you call him that. But guys like Gotti and so on. The teams have done a good job of vetting and going out and finding players that fit. The key in Japan, I think, for us is finding guys that fit the culture of Japan, that understand and can adapt to the culture, and then 2, that guys that are going to take the level of the game to a higher level. So the league, I'm highly impressed with, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
Well, listen, another guy that's been involved in a lot of this is John Gunning from Inside Sport Japan. John, thanks for being on the panel as well. Maybe we'll start a little bit with you, if we don't mind. I mean, from a reporter's standpoint, in the last decade, or even the last half decade, maybe 6-7 years, it seems to me, at least, apparent that there's been a huge spurt, if you will, in the game.
Yeah, it's even since we started covering it, probably in 2015, 16, year by year, you can just see it. And I think you saw that in March when the Japanese team took on a team, the Spring League. They're all guys who are on the fringe of the NFL, some guys who have played in the NFL.
Yeah.
And they stuck with them all the way to the end. They didn't win it, but they weren't blown off the field by any means, so, and that was without the American players. And, if you look at the level of players that are coming into Japan year on year, 3, 4, or 5 years ago, it was still easy enough if you were maybe a Division II player or a decent, FCS player or something like that to come in. But each year it's gotten harder and harder. And, we get contacted daily by guys who have been on teams in the NFL in camp or have been with FBS teams, and they just can't find slots in Japan. So there's an awful lot. I think because there's a limited number of positions available, and guys who come out here, a lot of them realize how good they have it, and those opportunities don't really exist in a lot of other places. So they really want to stay, So even though more teams are opening up to players, the level of players who are coming out are good and they want to stay. So it's really hard to get here. So, I'm telling people on a daily basis, here's the team's contact information, give it a go. But I'd be honest with people, if you haven't played at a high level in the States, it's going to be very difficult for you to find a slot in Japan nowadays.
Well, that brings us maybe back to the veteran of the group in terms of being in the game for so long, Adi. I have to ask you, talking to John's point here, how much of a difference have you seen in your last 7 years?
Certainly. I think when I first got to Japan, it was really a 2-team race, really. My first year in Japan, the dominant team at the time was, the Obik Seagulls. And I believe they had just, my first year, they completed what would be a historic 4 championships in a row, which actually Fujitsu just smashed this past season. But, they actually, and this is what I've always said. It's like Obik was the first team to get, to make a weapons comparison. Obik was the first team to get nuclear weapons. in the sense that, they were the first team to get 4 Americans that could really, that could really dominate the game, and to pair those Americans with, a Japanese talent that was unrivaled. And the one thing about Japan is once you build a culture, the players will start to come. It's not your Americans that win you games, it's your Japanese players. But the Japanese players will only come if they know that you have a winning culture and that they know that, they see a future in your program. When the Americans line up against each other, they'll usually cancel each other out. But if you have decent to good Japanese talent, then you can exploit some of the weaknesses on other teams. And I think that's one thing that, I think at Fujitsu that we really tried to build was how could we recruit at the same level as, the Obics of the world and the Panasonics of the world. And I think that's the one thing that has changed. And the one thing that could really spark a team to take in the next level is getting Americans that really buy into the program and that other Japanese want to play with as well. So,
that kind of brings me to you, Robert. Here, I mean, as I said, you're the only one who's playing on a different Japanese team, and B, and if I'm mistaken here, guys, please correct me, but the only one who's played outside of Japan. You played in Europe as well.
Yeah.
Now, you've joined Asahi, the Challengers. This is what, your second year coming up here, if there is a season, but we won't talk about that right now.
Well, we count.
How do you see the difference?
Well, you mean from Europe?
Well, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, first to Japan, the culture, as Adi was talking about, they've established a culture in Fujitsu, quite obviously, of winning. And what? So you've come into it. Asahi dropped down. Did they drop out of the top division of X League in the last 2 years?
We dropped my rookie year, and we actually made it to the X1 area championship game and lost to the rival company, Asahi Silver Star, the beer company. So we have to. Yeah, we're in the second division, yes, and we got to fight to get back into the first division again. So yeah, we're in the second division.
All right. Now, okay, how do you see the differences then between Japan and Europe then?
Mostly, like I tell my teammates and my coaching staff, as far as Europe as a country, there isn't high school and college programs there as far as how Japan is. Let's just say if a Japan athlete goes to Europe and play in the German football league, they count him as an American just because there's high school and college football here. So it's a major difference as far as the development there. So you have a lot of European coaches that maybe played in NFL Europe maybe and have got that teaching there, and they try to prolong it as teaching the German players, but there's like not a lot of, how can I put it? There's not a lot of development as far as the only teachings they really getting from real live players that played in Division 1, 2, or 3 schools, or some NFL players been coming there as well. They've gotten that coaching from American players, so it's a real big gap. But the talent level,
okay.
I can't say it's not the same just because of that development period, but there are some good European players out there that just not, they're hidden as far as been playing for this club for 10 to 12 years and not really getting that exposure like some of the Japanese players or American players. But it's talent out there in the world that a lot of people haven't seen. And you only see it if you're going out to these countries and actually seeing it eye to eye. Because football has been played everywhere.
Yeah.
It's getting played everywhere.
Yeah. Gino, let me ask you, the growth of the game. You've been in Japan now for as long as Addy, as you said. You guys arrived on the same flight. Or incredible.
Mhm.
What have you seen in terms of development of the game there?
Yeah. So as Adi said, we came into the same flight together. And I played for Fujitsu for about 5 years, and we won 3 championships while I was there with Adi and stuff. So again, there was a pretty big difference in I guess evolution in terms of not just the coaching style. You could obviously see that with Fujitsu bringing in a lot of American coaches and kind of changing kind of the Aboriginal culture into a team that's never won a championship into one that's tied OPIC into something. And I'm just by conversations I've been having with other coaches and programs, you can see that they're trying to find ways to kind of catch up and mimic some of the things that you're seeing at Fujitsu and OBIC a little bit as well. So there's always this, you're seeing a lot of people trying to kind of catch up to them. And one thing in particular I've seen, especially on the athlete levels, that Adi and I, when we first got here, training styles was very much bodybuilder style. Working your biceps, back, and all that kind of stuff. And from there, within our 5 years, and even now, Adi can probably attest to this more, is that you're starting to see athletes train more like athletes, implementing like plyometrics, functional movement, any of those type of things. And that's actually been going from not just the corporate leagues, but also down to the high school and colleges as well. So you're seeing these people who have these new found skills, and you can talk to Pierre about this, who's literally the master at recruiting any player. You're seeing a lot of these young Japanese players who are ready to play once they join the corporate leagues.
Well, I guess that brings me to you, Pierre. I was going to ask you anyway.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, one more time. He went out on us.
Yeah.
Oh,
Roger.
man. Uh-oh.
Roger.
He might have froze.
Yeah.
He might
I didn't even know he was sweet, man. Sweet.
Hey, I'll tell you guys one thing on the Zoom. So it helps, like, let's say he's talking. If everyone mutes until it's like, until your turn to talk, it'll process it better. I don't know why it does that, but like I've had mine on mute the whole time and it does come through clear. I know we're trying to get this technology thing, Corona's messed everything up. We should be doing this in person.
Yeah. That means the fact that we're all able to do it in different countries is pretty cool. So we in Tokyo.
That is pretty cool. Yeah. I'm in actually Alabama right now, so I'm back in the
there
States.
You go.
Good to see you guys all.
Hey Pierre, I got a question for you. While we wait for Roger to come back, I got a question for you, Pierre. So Roger was talking a little bit about, Gino was talking a little bit about the athletes are really prepared based on the training and preparation they get at the collegiate level. Can you talk a little bit about like what is the availability of these athletes? Like in the U.S., a college athlete is dedicating a full week of their time and energy to training in college. Like what kind of time and do these guys put in college over there?
Yeah, so I've had the opportunity to go into high schools in the U.S. across the country, from New York all the way to California, and to Hawaii actually. So I've been in pretty much every state in the U.S. And going to a lot of colleges as well, and seeing the programs they've implemented. And I will tell you, in Japan, if you take an athlete, and we've seen it happen. You take an athlete from the U.S. and put that athlete in a college in Japan, he will have no idea what he's getting into. These guys are, and I want to get into the regiment, but they work out and practice longer than anybody I've ever seen. And there's no complaining, no issue with it. It's structured. They put the time in. I will just say that part, and it's some of the longest practices I've seen. But they're focusing on the details, and I make fun of it, but at the same time, it is actually interesting to see the difference between a American practice compared university practice compared to a Japanese university practice. I think a lot of it has to do with the numbers that they have when it comes to organized football in the college level. But just from a perspective to where I guess an American coach would understand, we're pulling, let's say, 2-hour practices. That's you double that and you get to what you're getting to in the colleges in Japan.
Oh, wow. So these guys are, I mean, it's a serious program there, and these guys are dedicating serious time to is the schemas, and are these guys putting in tape time and meeting time as well, like in the U.S. colleges?
Correct. And I think the difference may be just the level of support staff that we have in the U.S. Compared to Japan, to where there's 4 or 5 guys that are really running the show when it comes to nutrition, strength and conditioning, meetings, X's and O's from a offensive, defensive, special team standpoint. It's all hands on board. To whereas you have those departments, in colleges, where we get to the D1 college, the top level colleges, I guess we would say, you have the nutritional staff, you have the academic support, you have the recruiting staff, you have the multiple assistants, the quality control, the graduate assistants. So there's so many people that make that organization work. To whereas in Japan, there's a small nucleus of people that actually do it, but they're doing it so fine-tuned. And I mean, that's across the board of all the colleges that I've had the opportunity to go and see in Japan. It's been the same everywhere you go. I mean, it's this time we're going to meet, this time we're going to do this. And those players are there and they're focused and they're sharp. And that transitions into the X League. We get these guys coming from the college level in the X League, man, and you present a drill or present a technique to that player and they pick it up, just because the way and the process and how they go about learning. So it's really fun because as a coach, for me personally, I always tell people in the US, I tell someone in Japan to do something and it teaches me about my coaching technique because he's going to do it exactly how I tell him. Whereas in the US, at times you have to, finagle your way around getting the guy to do it exactly how you want. I think it's intriguing as a coach and being able to build your philosophy based off what you're doing with players in Japan, off their aptitude to learn.
That's really interesting. I've never, I think a lot of people, I mean, Americans, myself, don't have that perspective on like how that Japan has that regimen of a system and is as sophisticated as, Americans, if not more so, when it comes to, training or time or all that, especially guys who play in Europe. Robert, firsthand that it's definitely not that's not the case in Europe for the most part. I think you're still on mute, Robert.
You're still on mute.
My bad. Yeah, I get what you're saying, John. I think some of the top teams get it. That's why they're mostly winning in the championship year after year. It's like it's a big process between knowing what to do and when to do it and why. A lot of teams and the coaching staff don't preach as much as technique and fundamentally sound, but here in Japan, like it's prominent and they take it to the max is what I say. They get into as far as the little details is what my college coach used to say. They take pride in that, and I can respect that to the fullest. And I actually had to see it out here. Myself, our quarterback Garrett Saffron, and my previous quarterback when I got here, my rookie year, Alex Nixnack, we all did part coaching at Kansai University, and I got a eye-to-eye tasting to see how the colleges here practice it, and it blew me away just as far as how they practice, and what they practice, and they did a lot in the max of those hours, and Yeah, and it blew me away. And we actually did kind of the same way because here in Asahi, we can only practice twice a week. So we put a lot in those hours. And so they take the time out and make sure they got their X's and O's in the right order. And I can't do nothing but respect it because they take it real serious out here. And that's all I've been looking for.
So Robert and Pierre, you both kind of hit on the culture shocks as in the game of football, just the amount of time that's just thrown in that you saw at the university level. What were some other culture shocks? I know Pierre, you said how in recruiting, you got to find a guy who fits Japan. And being myself, I'm from Kentucky, so being another Southern guy like yourself and Rojo, Robert, I think you're Mississippi. So like that culture alone, take it to Japan and you're like, oh man, what in the world is this? How was that?
So I'll start off on this one. So yeah, so we actually had a transition of players. This would be well, actually the last 2 years. We've taken we usually and just to kind of fill in guys that are listening on to the live chat that are interested in playing in Japan. So what a lot of teams do is they bring their Japanese GM, possible head coach, and a American assistant, usually to the U.S., either to hold a tryout or to hold meetings with candidates that they find in the U.S. Me having former ties in college football, we had some guys that we knew that identified some players for us. So we went back over and we go and we work these guys out, meet with them to get a feel for it. But the main point in those meetings, a lot of times for the Americans, is, hey, this is not going to be Kentucky. This is not going to be New York. This is not going to be California. And I think, these guys, the players can attest to it even more. It's a whole different makeup once you get off the plane and land in Tokyo or Osaka. So have you are, I guess you have to say, just your mind is stimulated in a whole different way than you've ever been, just because of everything that's going on in Tokyo. Now, for better or worse, the guys always are going to have the opportunity to find what I call subcultures. There's so many different dynamics in Japan, to where if you like this particular music or this particular food or fishing or whatever it may be, you will have the opportunity to find it. And somewhere in Japan, they have it. And that's the one cool thing about it, is as we identify these players, we figure out what they like and what their interests are, and we try to target those guys toward this particular area in Tokyo. Or hey, you take a trip down on the Shinkansen to see Kyoto, for a more scenic and naturistic viewpoint. So I think that's the thing about Japan that a lot of guys have to understand, if they don't have any idea of the culture and the history of Japan, is there is the opportunity to find your niche here, but you really do have to search it out, because the base of Japan is not going to be the typical day in Los Angeles, California, I would say.
If I may jump in real quick.
Please do. Please do. This is a free-for-all. Everyone just jump in when you want.
So there is a negative. We've talked about the Japanese culture and that translating into sport of working longer and harder. There is a negative aspect to that within Japan that I think not enough Japanese coaches pay attention to. There's a reason that a lot of young Japanese players, baseball players particularly, have blown out elbows by the time they're 16, 17, 18 years old. And that goes for football as well. When you get these athletes out there, and because Japan doesn't have a structure like the NCAA that mandates only 2 hours on the field, so you get these coaches out there, these Japanese coaches, where they take their guys out there 3, 4, 5 hours, skipping meals, an hour of running, an hour of indie, an hour of team, 30 minutes of 7-on-7 at some point. And because the college teams, they practice 6 days a week. With the X League, you only have 2 or 3 days. The college team, now over time, your body can only take so much. The wear and tear on those players, by the time they get, now obviously in Japan, you don't play every week, But between those weeks that you're playing, you're practicing 3, 4, 5 hours a day. Over time, the body starts to wear, and a lot of those players will start to get little nagging injuries by the time they get to the X League. So it's almost like we're trying to rework their bodies. For us, especially at Fujitsu, the first year that they come to Fujitsu, they realize that, all right, practice is only going to be 2 hours, but we're going to need you to run these routes full speed. We can't have you going 50% of these routes, because the game, we're going to need you to run it at game reps. So for them, and it's a Japanese culture thing. It's not just a football thing. It's, I stay at work from 7 a.m. to 12 midnight. That's the culture. But again, this wears on players. Players are not robots. And I think that's one thing that if Japan was to get a little better, you wouldn't be able to get away with that in college in the States because of the NCAA. You wouldn't be able to get away with that in the NFL because coaches are making millions of dollars. And if your star player is not in a game because of wear and tear, the coach is going to get fired. The strength coach is going to get fired. The nutritionist is going to get fired. The trainer is going to get fired. So there's some accountability in the States because of money, because of the monetary gains that comes from football in the States. Whereas in Japan, coaches aren't making millions of dollars, so a lot of the times coaches, it's more of an authoritarian rule within football in Japan. It's, you do what the coach says, you do how the coach says it, or you won't play. So I think that if there's one thing that, and obviously what everyone said has been great, but I think we also need to look at some of the little nuances that can improve Japanese football in that way.
I just want to jump in, sorry, on what Ade said there, because it's funny because he said baseball. There's a high school baseball team next door to my house here. They just finished up. I heard them just before 10 p.m. They've been going since this morning. So it's
Yeah.
Sunday, right? They probably did 8-10 hours yesterday as well. Their school is an hour. I think it was Ade. We were on the train. Remember we met them on the train? Those guys, right? So their school is an hour away by train. They come here, they arrive back every single day. They're training until it's dark. They just run. You hear them like with the floodlights are turned off, they're still running around the field. So they're going 6-7 days a week. It was the same for me in sumo. That thing that Ali's talking about, that's the Japanese thing, is like doraku, or effort. So it's almost more important. How much effort you put in is almost more important than the results in many cases. So my background is obviously sumo. And, we go into training, and if you broke a finger, like if it was a smaller finger, like one of the second fingers, you'd be just like tape it out and keep going. You wouldn't stop training just because you broke a small bone. You get it fixed after training, but you got to push through it. When I split my humerus, arm bone lengthways, top to bottom into 3 places, right? So the bones didn't fuse for 18 months. And I went into my coach and had a plaster of Paris cast shoulder to wrist. My hand was tied to my body. All the nerves were severed. Face was black and blue. I'd lost sight and hearing. I hit my head so hard when the bone broke. And my coach looked at me and he said, "Are you going to train?" And I was there. My arm is dead. I won't get feeling back. The doctor said for maybe half a year at least. It's tied to my body. I'm still covered in bandages. I'm like the mummy. And he goes, "There's nothing wrong with your legs, is there? Go do some squats." And like that was sumo. Like, and it's like that in baseball. And mental toughness is the ultimate thing in Japan. Being able to push through everything and anything. And that's for a lot of, like I said, in a lot of places that almost supersedes the results. The process almost supersedes the results. So if you're thinking of coming here, as well as adapting to the culture, like you gotta have, if you're gonna succeed, you have to have that mentality. You're never gonna get stuff get in your way. You're just gonna push through it,
Caleb, did you have something? There we go.
I did, because I think this goes into our next topic as we're continuing on with culture, and we were talking about just the discipline of the Japanese culture and just those long regimented hours. So for my athletes, guys, and I actually want to start with Gino, because Gino, you were born in Japan, so you're going to have a really good perspective on this next question of how has it felt to be a professional athlete and a Black man in Japan? How's that felt for you, and how's that look? what's your answer to it? I'll let you go ahead and unpack it. Everybody feel free to join in.
That's a fun one. So yeah, just a little bit of background. Yeah, I was born in Sasebo, Japan, but I grew up in San Diego, California. My dad's military. My mom's from Tokyo. She's Japanese. So to be quite honest, I never, when I was growing up, I never considered myself, hey, oh, I'm a black male. I was more like I'm Japanese black, especially since I've obviously I have a lot of huge connections with my mother and my family in Japan. So so there was always that idea of being kind of multiracial, biracial. And I think that being said, I think as you know, as we all know, at the end of the day, what really matters, even though you can identify as whatever you want, what really affects you more so than anything else is how people could see you, right? So I knew that, and I figured that out as I grew up. At the end of the day, no matter what people said to me, you're a black man, no matter, even if my middle name is Japanese, even if I had Japanese citizenship at some point, like all these type of things, people only care about, America is the place of the one drop rule, where if you're if you're darker than a paper bag, you're considered black. And one of the reasons why I wanted to come back to Japan was to kind of reconnect and be able to just say, hey, like I'm back, almost type of thing. But I didn't get the response that I was looking for, saying, hey, like I'm Japanese like you guys. I didn't get that. I didn't get the welcome home type of thing, or like the how do I say this in the right way? Oh, like you're one of us. I got you're black, so stay black. So and that's just something that I realized. And whenever I told people I was half Japanese, they didn't believe me. They're like, you don't look half Japanese. And it's still now, even today. So even when I like go into these type of like places, I speak Japanese. It's I didn't speak it as well back then, but I can speak it pretty regularly now. The first thing they do is speak English, no matter what. And there have been certain occasions, and I've been with Adi at this point a couple times, where I'll speak to somebody in Japanese, and then they'll return it back to me and say, I don't speak English. And like, it's just one of these things where you're just like, what more do I have to do? So that was definitely an issue as I was growing up. Yeah, but as you do run into these like weird type of microaggressions. I will never say that you've never been. I'll never say it's kind of a situation where you see in America where you're actually fearing for your life, but you get these type of microaggressions, these type of these weird things that people say to you. You're like, what does that mean? What are you trying to say? I remember one person, will not be named, asked Adi and I why we like fried chicken so much. And these type of things, these type of things, you're just like, oh, they don't know any better, or someone taught them these things. But a lot, it's a lot, to be quite honest, and sometimes it can be frustrating. I'll open it back up to everybody else so you guys can tell your little stories, but yeah, there's definitely a lot to it.
And just
I'm sorry. I was trying to cook fried chicken for you guys. I don't.
Hey, everybody likes fried chicken. That's all I got to say.
I'll let me chirp in one thing, Gotti. I'll just say this because and going to Gino's point, I just recall being with Gino multiple times out, and we see Gino as being Japanese and black. But again, we embrace him as a brother like anybody else. Mm-hmm. But we would be out, and we're trying to figure out whatever the circumstances are in a restaurant, how to order this, to do that. And we would point at Gino and say, Gino, do something, help. Like, and they're still looking at Gino like he's one of you guys. Like, it's not going to change anything. So when Gino was talking during that time, there's been so many moments to where, as a black man in Japan, it is frustrating. I think you used the right word. It's a little bit frustrating because, we don't deal with what we're dealing with in the U.S. right now, we'll say, as a whole. But there are those micros that Gino's talked about. Nadi, I'll let you go ahead and elaborate more because I know you got some good stuff.
And just for players who are thinking about coming to Japan, I think the one thing is you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is especially in Tokyo and in Osaka and some of those more foreign areas, they see Black people more than they would in the rural areas. But and it's unfair to ask individuals to carry the mantle, but that's essentially what you're doing every time you come across a Japanese kid, every time you come across a Japanese old lady, because it's unfair for her to judge the actions of all people based on the one Black person that she meets, but that's essentially what they're going to do. So you have to try to be on your best behavior a lot of the times, because if you feel uncomfortable being the only Black kid in class, try being the only Black person in your 3-block radius, and it's every time, even if you don't feel like it and the kids say hello to you, you're not just going to ride by and not say hello. You gotta muster it up and just be like, hello, and like just, and repeat it back to them, because you're their only foreign experience for the week, if you don't live in this super urban area. And I think and it's, I always tell people that, we stand on the shoulders of giants. But the one thing that I don't, elaborate to people, that you can also be a giant within your community. And you can be a giant by simply not messing it up for the next person to come, paying it forward, right? If you come to Japan and act a fool and they kick all the foreigners out of Japan, which almost happened in the X League a couple years ago, that doesn't look good on guys that are trying to come and make a living for themselves and trying to set up something for their family. So you're not just representing yourself when you're in Japan, when you're in these neighborhoods, you're representing every single other American in the X League and around Japan. So, because Japanese, they don't see you as, oh, he's Black or he's this or he's that. They just see you as, you are a foreigner, you are a gaijin, or you're a gaikokujin from another country, so they lump everyone into that, and they'll say, oh, why does this foreigner do this? Why did this foreigner do? Well, I'm not that foreigner. Why are you asking me? But that's how they perceive it. That's how they see it. So it's one of those things that future players have to keep in mind, that you're representing. The reason you're here is because someone didn't mess it up. The reason someone in the future is going to be here is because you didn't mess it up. So make sure to carry that mantle and continue to, stand on the shoulders of giants, but also be a giant yourself. So.
Adi, I think you said it pretty well, man. Like it's not fair for that one person to carry the mantle, but I do believe that majority of the guys on this panel, at one point, someone taught you like, hey, you're not just representing yourself, you're representing your family, your team, and everybody who looks like you as well. Rojo, I'm gonna turn to you because you've been in Europe and in Japan with the same experience playing football. So how would you compare the two? Was it completely foreign in both places? As Adi said, you were considered more of just this foreign or a gaijin, like you weren't accepted regardless of what you look like, you were foreign. But in Europe, was it different for you or what?
With Europe being my first go around as an international thing, I had to get uncomfortable to get comfortable kind of deal. Where we were located in Marburg, Hessen, it was a lot of Russians and what you call, they like to call them refugees, kind of, where they would kind of just put everybody from another country in one area, kind of. So it was mostly monitored by the police a lot over there. So it was kind of diverse in a sense. And we kind of got like the alien stares that we do get here. And so like with what I was trying to get here on our team, with me and Michael Taylor played with each other in Marburg, Germany. And Garrett also played in Germany as well. So we already got that international feel as far as kind of being aliens. That's what I like to say, aliens in the city. Me and Bryson talked today. We can get used to the stares because mostly it's some people's first time seeing people of color here. So we can get used to that. It's just for the stereotypes. We gotta jump around, get used to like I take the city bus a lot. I rarely get people to sit next to me. Like nobody never sits next to me at all, even on the train. Like the girl, just last night, a girl, she was going my way, but she looked dead in my eyes and seen I was going to sit at this particular spot and just ran to the other side of the train. And I actually had people run away from me too. So it's like, we can deal with that. I can deal with that, but it's like, it's just all that comes with it. And like by the time now I'm used to it. So it just goes one ear, not the other sometimes. And yeah, man, it's just being uncomfortable, being comfortable, I guess. And I'm okay with it. Like this is my 3rd year here. Like I actually had a guy today tell me, like he said I look scared. Now I know he didn't mean anything by it, but I knew what he meant as far as now my hair getting longer. I'm over 6 foot, so we just get used to it, man. I can't do nothing about it. This book been written before I was here, so and I'm just go day by day and make my life simple as it can and do my best job to try to represent Americans in a foreign player here in Japan to my best ability and try to make it easier for the next man. That's it.
Hey Caleb, I think Rob had a good point, man. Is just what he's basically saying is educating these the people that we come in contact with over here as much as we can. Same thing that's going on in the U.S. Again, I keep pointing back to the U.S. because I mean I have close friends that aren't educated on aspects of daily life as a Black man. White friends, Asian friends. Now being in Japan, so the key is keeping your cool in a way to where they feel comfortable and open enough to listen to what we have to say. I think that's the key, because a lot of times common sense isn't common. We think that this should not happen this way, but why is this going on this way? But some people don't understand that. They don't see it the same way. They didn't grow up where we grew up. And I know, Rob's from Mississippi, right?
Yep, that dirty.
Yeah, so the dirt. So we neighboring states. So we've seen it all. Being from Alabama, and then I know Gino's father's actually from North Carolina and went over and served in the military in Japan. So from people that have been, I guess, in the South to take that and go to Japan. Honestly, I think it's easy for us just to be able to educate in Japan because we've seen people that really don't want to hear anything we have to say in the South, and they're going to pretty much stay that way until the time they die, and that's just who they are. But the people that we do have the opportunity to influence, whether it's through football or through friendship or fellowship, I think it's a great thing. And they had the march in Tokyo actually right before I left. Me and Adi had the opportunity to be a part of the Black Lives Matter protest there, and move and march through Shibuya Crossing, and just to see that foundation being set in Japan to where you're passing by little Japanese kids on the road with their parents and they're getting a glimpse of what's going on. And again, it's subliminal, but at the same time, it's an educational standpoint for them because they are seeing a Black man walking with a Japanese man, walking with a white man, and unity and in a place to where they don't really understand, but they're going to do more research on that, which I hope. So again, I think and this is again for football players that are looking to come to Japan, like Adi said, pay it forward, man. Express and teach and show your past knowledge of what you've been through in the U.S. and what we go through on a daily basis. And I think they'll take keen of that.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And I got one more question for the panel because man, y'all said a lot there of you have to educate. You have to be open to talking to someone else and being that person with the mantle and just being a great example every day. Even though, Robert, you said how you get used to it, and a lot of Americans can attest to that same statement. It's like, I'm used to it. I know how to react. What do you think can be done or should be done? Like, should there be an organization that's formed, or just a group of guys in Japan that come together and to have that education platform, to make it open for people or whatever. Because as players, a lot of time we know our platform is on our field, and then when we come off the field for about 20 minutes, we have that engaging moment. But do you think leagues maybe should just set up something just to be educational in that manner?
I think one of the beautiful things about the Japanese experience is that you actually live in these neighborhoods. So you're not separated from life the way you would be as a sheltered athlete in America. When you go to the grocery store, that's a form of education. I know, P and I used to live, Coach P and I used to live in the same building, and the amount of education that took place subliminally with the kids in our building was amazing. Even something as, a kid that, a year before we moved in spoke no English, all of a sudden, he's starting to understand a little bit of the English. Even some of the parents that are seeing that, they see the way that we move, they see the way that we interact, they see the way that, even after winning championships, the kids and the parents, they would wait for us, and have these little confetti, celebrations for us, and so those small things because we are in these communities, I think those educations are taking place organically. So I don't think there's something that I don't think there needs to be like a big forum to where we say, okay, now this day we're going to do this. I think that the things that we do on a daily basis, from just getting up, getting on the trains, getting on the buses, being in the supermarkets, and just dealing with people within our building, is furthering the education within the Japanese system and within our community.
I'd like to add a little
Guys,
bit
I'm
to
just
that.
always waiting for, continue if you want. This is great stuff, please.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, I very much do agree with Adi in saying that your daily interactions, no matter the kind of annoying ones that we may have, are extremely important, because that's how people, by experience, is how people learn, and that's one of the reasons why I feel as though we, as athletes, or mainly, especially during my time as athletes, we spend a lot of time doing some outreach programs, and not necessarily, hey, this is for Black people, or this is for guys, it's like a guys being friendly thing. It's more like, hey, we're going to go out and teach football to the schools, and being able to have a foreign player at that area, interacting with them and saying that, hey, like, A, I'm growing the game of football, and B, I'm showing you that even though I do look different than you, we still like doing the same things, and I'm actually a pretty fun guy. And I do feel as though the X League can be a little bit more active in that kind of stuff. The biggest thing they had was something called like the home model camp, which is a year and a half ago during the summertime, where all the players, including foreign players, were able to host kids. A lot of the players, and then Adrian Peterson jumped on came as a guest as well, and I thought that was really good. But I do think those type of things need to be more regular, not with the specific objective of being able to say, hey, let's introduce foreign players, but just to create that conversation or create that opportunity to interact outside of just playing football.
Guys, I think we're gonna, it's getting late for you. It's just after 11 already. This could go on. I mean, so what I'd like, I mean, we could go on for another 2-3 hours. I think this has been fantastic. Well, what I'd like to do is each of you maybe jump in here and for any last words. And I tell you what, we'd like to have you all back on again very soon if we could, and continue this discussion. But every one of you here, maybe start with you, and we just kind of wind it all up, because I'm an old guy, and I was hoping 50 years ago when I'm 50 years ago, 1968, 52 years ago. And are we still there? Anyway, go ahead, please. We'll wind it up this way.
Yeah, no, and I'll take that with history. You learn and you live and you experience, and I think the climate and the culture of football in Japan as a whole has brought many people together from both standpoints. Politically, both sides of the picture, racially, from different backgrounds. and I think it's a beautiful thing. I'll take one thing that I saw this past year with the Rugby World Cup that was held in Japan this year, and the amount of people that came in and came into Japan, and there was a sense of how is this going to affect the country? What are they bringing into the country? The attitude wise from the Japanese public, and I think everyone left the Rugby World Cup with different nations, fans there, different teams there, with a sense of unity, with a sense of commitment to trying to understand each other. And I think that was a catalyst for football. And like Gino said, I hope the X League takes this opportunity after the World Cup leaving, Rugby World Cup leaving, to try to put football in a position of creating diversity in Japan, and bringing Americans, and maybe possibly bringing foreigners from the UE, from Europe, and from different places, like we talked about earlier, Nigeria. I mean, bringing guys to Japan to broaden the game of football, and to create a climate of unity. That's the most important thing for this, for our country in the U.S. and for the country of Japan and the world. Just creating unity and having common sense when it comes to understanding one another.
Yeah, Adi, any last words here before we?
I think in regards to Japan and football, the opportunity here is a beautiful one, and I want to ask the players that are already here to keep to keep it in mind that they not only represent themselves, but they represent every other player in the league. I know when we're on the field and we're competing against each other, it's very important that we go out and we compete and do the best for our teams. But the minute that we step off of that field, we are all connected in the struggle. We all uniquely understand what each of us is going through, and I think it's we should continue to support each other in whatever endeavors that we're doing. And in terms of just what's going on in America, I think the first step to admitting, to solving a problem is admitting that you have one, and I think that's what America is going through right now. I think America is finding a way to admit that it has a problem, and finding ways and finding steps to address that. So.
Gino?
Kind of hard to go after those two great speeches. But honestly, just trying to share those type of sentiments is that football and sports, even in my life, it's been kind of the great connector. And I think all of us, with our experience being from America and coming here, we feel those roles of being connectors. And as we kind of go through that, we should make sure that we understand that we play a pivotal role. Athletes or people who are between cultures, you play a pivotal role, and you should always be the example and show people that there's always a different way of doing things, and be open to those type of diverse ideas, whether it comes from someone of a different race, religion, or creed. I think that's the most important thing. And, I think American football will be a great vehicle to share those ideas and share those type of experiences and have people bond. So I definitely do believe the future, no matter what, the future is still bright.
I like optimism. Good. Robert?
Yeah, most definitely. I can piggyback. Just, united we stand and divided we fall. So most importantly, I think my high school coach used to tell us a lot. Your character for yourself is really going to play out to where you want it. So it's like mostly, if you got good character, man, everything else will follow suit. And like I said, what's going on right now, I think the only thing that'll bring everybody back together is sports. Because that's the only way you can get people from different countries, different races, different religions, all in one area, probably cheering for somebody they don't even know. And to me, that brings me joy. You know, me being in Germany, we had we had Germans, we had people from Austria, people from America, people from England, all of that, all on one team playing as one. And people see that and people gravitate to that. And even kids see that. Like we didn't know the weight we hold until we seen little kids coming and taking pictures with us after the game. Don't even know our last names mostly, but probably first time ever playing football or seeing football in the sport, period. And that really brings people together. And once you can get a moral out of that, I think we can start working together as far as unity. And that's what we need. And that's what we definitely need right now. And I think we'll be working back towards that. And if we can get every game out here like Fujitsu and Ovid, you know, it'll definitely be something to see. I'm waiting on that, but you know, that me going to that game myself, that was an eye opener. That was an eye opener. I love to see that. So,
All right.
Hey, we got yeah, you
gets
can't
like
be putting too
that.
much on here, Robert. Hey, they might be listening, man. Hey, look, you know we.
Yeah.
Hey,
Trying to
Mr. Gunning, any last
coming up
words
here.
before we go?
Yeah,
John.
listen, I'm obviously, I just want to say something that, like, Ade talked about the responsibility that people have when they're out and about, and like, it's put in your shoulders that you're representing all Americans, you're representing all Black people, whatever. And Robert talked about, like, how that can just wear on you, and it can be tiring, and, you know, you let it go in one ear and out the other, but it's still, it's a stress on people, right? But coming from the other side of it, I talked to Caleb a couple of days ago, and I was telling him I never saw a Black person in real life till I was 17 years of age, right? So I grew up in a country where there was nobody else that wasn't white, Catholic, Irish anywhere near me. There wasn't any other religion, there wasn't any other race, there wasn't any other opinion or viewpoint. So everything that people thought was the same as everyone around them for hundreds of miles, right? So, and I never talked to anyone who was Black until I was 21, till I went to the States and started working with like kids from the inner city, and I had coworkers from Kenya and stuff like that, which is crazy if you think about it. But like, it was my first interactions were, I joke and laugh, you know. I mean, I've been a hip hop fan since The Message came out, right? So like, I was into the music. I was a fan of the Bears since '85, but I'd never met anyone who was Black in person till I was 21. So my whole impression and image, it was like just like this false thing, you know. I didn't know anything about the issues, the real issues that people face, or what the real life was like. And when you meet people face to face, and you have these conversations, and you hear what the reality is, it opens your eyes in a way that, like, listening to any amount of music or watching any amount of games never will. And yeah, it's just, I know it feels like a stress and a responsibility, and it can be annoying, but it's so valuable because a lot of hate comes from ignorance and from not knowing. And if you just see a group of people as a group of people, it's easy to make them at the other, right? They're this group and they're that's what they are like, right? But if you've met people from that group and you've had face-to-face conversations with them, and you've realized, you know, hey, everyone in that group is an individual the same as everyone in our group is an individual, it's much harder to repeat and to, you know, perpetrate the stuff that comes out. So it's just, I know it can be stressful for guys, but it's so valuable, you know. It is. That's just what I think.
Wow. Hey, Caleb, any last words from you?
I just got to set it off. John, that was good words, John. Thanks, Neville. Good words there.
Yeah,
thank you guys for coming on the show. Thank you everybody for like sharing your insight and everything. I'm sure I'll text everybody afterwards and just like share some more thoughts. But like, this was great. Hopefully I'll get out to Tokyo when Corona is over and I can come meet up with some of you guys. But no, this was great today. Pierre, be safe out there in Bama. If you want to get out of Bama, Kentucky's a good place. No, I'm joking. But it was a good time.
You know what, guys? I got to say, is my last words here. I've been involved in pro football and pro basketball for a long time. and still am for that matter in Europe. And I'm an old guy, and I was touching on the 60s and the protests that went on then. And you know what? I've been involved in so many different ways, and yet I'm enlightened every single time we have these discussions. So to the point that almost every one of you made, we have to communicate. This was for me. I'm learning every day still, and I really appreciate you guys coming on and helping with that. That's what we have to do, is keep talking. So thank you all, and shoot, we got to do this again. Really do appreciate it. Thanks everyone for watching, and yeah, let's keep talking. Thanks, guys.
Hey, thanks so much for having us.